Yeah, my dad was on the board of the Canadian Japanese Mission with Margaret Ridgway. She was the head, and that was on all the Japanese, the Nisei and Issei, first generation Japanese that were moved from the West Coast and put into the prairies, into the work on the sugar beet farms. And we would have services once a month at the First Baptist Church. And I'd have to go when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. I had to learn how to eat with chopsticks because we had to have a Japanese meal, or I should say a Chinese meal with Japanese. We used to go down to the Chinese restaurants because that's all we could have. And now maybe once or twice a year, we went out to Tabor outside of Lethbridge, and that's what we get the real Japanese food. And the Japanese would do it about once or twice a year. And I have to learn how to eat with chopsticks.
美味しいです。
My uncle Vern went out to Japan as missionary and head of the Evangelical Alliance Mission, and 1950-51. He was there to about 1980, 82, 83.
37 years.
Yeah. And my best friends were all Japanese. Used to play hockey with them back in there.
Well, one of his good friends was, his last name was Uchida. You know that? Know that name or no? Uchida, Aki Uchida.
Yeah. But what I loved about it, because I was always on the Japanese side, for the white guy taking them back and doing the wrong thing, I was a rebel. But my dad and I had a manufacturing plant for farm implements, and after he sold his share in 1965, I went out to work at the sugar beets factory, unloading trumps, and you see these Japanese farmers coming in, and they'd have 20 bushels per acre, and the white guy maybe 10 or 15. They had their own farms and did well. Yeah.
They were happy that they went there. You know, it wasn't happy now. They lost their fishing ships, but they were happy because they could farm there.
Yeah.
So that's his history with Japanese people.
He was Buddhist. I was looking after his mother, and she was here in Canada for a few months. I looked after her and my little toddler, and she was not doing anything, so I thought, okay, Mom, let's go somewhere. So she went to a Japanese community group, and that was in Vancouver. We were in Surrey. And then she went to the group called Tonarigumi, and there she met a Japanese Christian lady and was invited to church. So I took her to church, and then in few weeks, she started to walk okay. You know, she was on canes and had difficulty walking, and then she started to walk, and she says, oh, this is amazing. And then she started to hear the words of Christ, the Bible, and then she said, take everything back that reminds her of Buddhism, because I don't need it anymore. That was the seed that was planted in us.
Absolutely.
Because just 3 months after that, she passed away. And Peter Dirksen and Mary Dirksen, they had done a funeral for us, Christian style. So at that time, we were not Christians.
Okay.
So we didn't know what to do, but they helped us. And then through that, he eventually came to Christ, and I came to Christ.
Right.
So that was 2005.
Don't you love those stories?
Yes, 2005, so 18 years ago.
今の音楽聴いたらデリク先生が好きな歌だったから
Yes,
涙出そう
those
か
you played, were hymns that Peter Dirksen loved. And
Peter Dirksen was a missionary in Japan for 40 years,
Yes.
so he probably knew Uncle Vern.
Yeah.
He just passed away.
I am pretty sure,
Well, what church?
Mennonite church.
Oh, okay.
涙出そうだって
Yeah, he was almost teary because he recognized the
Well,
Connection with
that's
Peter.
Richard's gift. He loves the old song. He can hardly play the new songs. They just aren't down his lane. But he's got a fan club at our church.
Oh.
And every once in a while he plays the prelude.
Oh,
He
yes.
doesn't play in the service, it's the prelude.
Nice.
And they
Yeah,
get
once or
all
twice
these,
a month we get
all
to
these
Nice.
songs.
Play the Prince, yeah.
Nice.
But just this is a little bit off the subject, only because of what time of the year it is.
talking about God leading.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just celebrating 66 years since we met.
Mm-hmm. Ah, I think I look at you.
Richard was
look at
in
it.
Bible school at Briarcrest, and I lived in Prince George. You know where that is?
Yes. What?
And the team from Briarcrest that he played in came to my church. I'm 15 years old, okay? And so the church is full. And I'm sitting in the front row with this empty seat beside me, and he's playing the piano, and my brain works overtime, and I think, that guy is going to sit beside me, I'm out of here. So away I went to the back of the church, and the usher says, oh, we need these places back here, you go back up to the front. You know, so I went back up to the front, and this guy sat beside me, and I had this little white jacket on, and he hasn't quit talking about it since.
Train
He
up a
tells
child in
everybody-
the way she should go, and when she's old, should not depart from it. She was just a young little child.
15歳の時あったんだ。
But he lived in Lethbridge, went to school, and he was supposed to go to Kansas, but they canceled that. And here we are.
How did you remain in touch in those days? Writing letters?
Oh, of course, we wrote
Yeah.
letters in those
yes,
days.
yes.
He wrote letters, yeah. And I graduated from high school, and he moved out here, lived with my parents while I went to nursing, and we got married 5 years later. So we've been married 60 years.
Wow, nice.
So, I mean, that's why we love to tell the story, because only God could have brought that together. God had a plan.